We're back to our tank. In the first video we covered connect, target weld, and cut and slice as ways to get a little bit more variety into your mesh. In this one we're going to cover chamfer, bridge, and then cloning or ripping sections off of the tank to make duplicates that you can use for templates. Alright, so let me get set up here. I'm going to maximize my viewport, zoom out a little bit. You'll recognize the tank from the last one. And I'm going to right click and hit isolate selection. And zoom back in a little bit here. Okay, and we're going to go over chamfer. And what I'm going to do is find a decent place to chamfer something on this tank. How about right here in the front? So let's go right here in the front. I'm going to go back down to edit poly, making sure that show end result is on. You'll see I have a symmetry modifier on top, edit poly down below, and I'm going to go to my edges as my sub selection in this. And again, I'm working on the orange side of the tank because I have symmetry on. I'm going to look for chamfer. It's right here. Hit the little button here, we'll turn it on. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to select these two edges. They're yellow in my version here at home. They'll probably be red when you select them at school. Again, I've selected this one and this one. So this whole line right here is selected. And I'll hit chamfer. Now what chamfer does is it splits the edge. I'm going to rotate around here and we'll zoom right in so you can see it. It's right there. And if I move the chamfer amount out, what it's going to do is create an edge that rounds off, bevels, or basically just gives volume to the edge. Can you see that now? So if I ramp this down, see how it closes up? Here's what it was before. Here's what it is now. It's not a very good angle. There we go. Here's what it was before. Here's what it is now. And you get that angling going on there. You can chamfer chamfered edges too, as silly as that sounds. So both pieces are selected because chamfer leaves them selected, and then I can chamfer both of those, even though I wouldn't want to chamfer them that much. And what I ended up with here is a rounded edge. You can see it right there. So that edge has now been kind of rounded off where before it was straight. Okay? So that's chamfer. And bridge is our next one. I'm going to isolate or get out of isolation mode here. Zoom out. I'm going to look for a section here. I'll show you something that's been bridged quite a bit, and that's this section up here. I'll isolate this so you can see it. And this piece here has been bridged a lot, and the bridged parts are all these diagonal pieces that are kind of stretching across the piece here. And what I'm looking for is, okay, found a place. Let's use this little piece here to explore bridge with, because it's got some pieces I can use. Okay, and how bridge works, it works best in Alt-X mode or see-through mode, because I'm going to want to see through this a little bit. I'm going to go to Edit Poly and Show End Result because I have a symmetry modifier on this again. And I'm looking for bridge. It's right here. And how bridge works is I usually use the button this time, not actually the settings. And if I click the button, see how it'll highlight over polygons? I'm going to click on this polygon here and then bridge it over to this one right here. So I click on it, and then I get a dotted line, a lot like target weld, and then I click on this one, and you'll see that I get a bridge that goes through it. Now symmetry is throwing that off a little bit, so let me find one that's a little bit cleaner here. How about I'll hit bridge again. This one will connect to this one. And you're seeing it doubled there. If I turn off symmetry, you'll see how that really works. So I could bridge, let's see here, let's bridge this one to What I want to do is bridge them across there, but I can't fit in there. So how about this one to this one? And you'll see how it's bridged them all together. Okay? So I'm going to make a new section onto this piece to really show you kind of the power you can get here with bridge. I'm going to go to Edit Poly, Polygon, Bevel. And what I'm going to do is bevel these out a little bit just so I've got some more. There we go. So I've got some stuff to work with here. You can see that's what my shape looks like. And what I'm going to do is bridge up. I'm going to get all text mode because it's getting confusing to see what I'm doing here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Edge mode. I'm going to select this edge, this one, and this one. If I can get them. I think I screwed that up. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to hit connect really quick just to put a split down the middle. Now I'm going to go to polygon mode. You can see I've got lots of polygons here to play with. What I'm doing now is I'm selecting the polygons that I'm going to bridge. And I hit bridge and I left click on the polygon that I want to bridge to the other one, and then click on the next polygon I want it to bridge to, and that'll create a bridge. Bridge works best if you give it a little bit of spacing in between the polygons that are going to be bridged. That'll at least give you a little bit of depth. And I'm going to bridge these two together just as another example. And you can see the spacing in between the bridged elements here. And that's what you want to do. You can see that it does create some intricate little elements. Real good for structure, braces, things like that. And what I'm doing next here is I'm going to jump over to creating a cloned object, and setting up my tank object here that I got. I'm going to reset this to the original file of mine because I don't want to save those bridge settings. And you can see some lattice work already on the tank. The lattice work is that raised ribbed area on the sides there. That's what we're going to do. And we'll get the scene set up here. I'll hit isolate selection and zoom in a little bit here so I can work on it. And I'm going to go down to polygon, sub-object mode. And I'm going to select these polygons here on this fender or the side of the tank here in a second. Those polygons there. And what I'm going to do is clone them, or basically make a copy of just those polygons that's going to be a separate object. And you can do this for a lot of features. We're going to apply lattice to this. Also, make sure you grab just one of those directional arrows. I'm grabbing the green directional arrow, the Y arrow, and holding down Shift as I move it, and that will make a copy of those polygons. And we go on these single arrows because then they're easier to put back into place. We want to make sure that we don't clone to an element. We want to clone to object. Cloning to an element would make these new parts part of the old object. Cloning to a new object makes them a separate object, which is what we want to do. You can clone to an element if that's what you want to do. Nothing wrong with it, but we don't want to do that in this case. I'm going to turn off sub-objects so that I can select my new object, which is this now fender piece that I've got here. Now there's a lot of things we can do with this. Next I'm going to bevel this, and you'll see I'm going to make it thicker, so I'm going to give it about 3 or 4 bevels here. I'm going to increase the outline a little bit, then zero out the outline so it comes straight out, and then one more apply, and I'm going to knock the outline amount down to a negative value and the height down a little bit. And that's going to create this thick piece that when I move it back in here in a second, it'll fit perfectly to where I had ripped it off in the first place, because that original piece was that group of polygons. So That's the bevel technique. I'm going to undo this now and get back to that flat piece. And now I'm going to apply lattice to this, and the lattice modifier is going to work on those edges and just make struts and joints from the edges, and it makes like a structural element that can then be put back onto the tank. And now I'm going to apply lattice. You can see here I've made it a modifier button, but you can go to your modifier list. It's called lattice, L-A-T-T-I-C-E. And just by applying it, you can see those structural elements. I'm adjusting the radius, which is the thickness, and the sides, which is how smooth it is. And now I'm just going to put it back into place, and you can see it fits perfectly. And now we have some structural elements to our tank, and you could use this anywhere. It's just based off the edges that you want to keep. So you could even go in and delete the edges that you didn't want to have lattice, and they would just delete those part of the lattice. Okay, I'm hitting undo here just to get back to where I was to start with. I'm going to make a little grill element here in the front just to show you how easy lattice is to make. I'm going to go back to my 4 views, and in the top view here I'm going to drag out a box that fits in that space at the front of my tank. I'm going to move this box into position, and I'm going to need to bend it down, so I need to go to Edit Poly so I can get a hold of the vertices, grab the vertices and bend them down. Now I want my lattice work eventually here to have more pieces or more grill parts to it. Right now it wouldn't be very exciting because that box doesn't have any segments to it. And so I'm going to use the edges and grab through that box just on the sides and apply connect and ramp up the number a little bit here so we get some of those cross sections. And then I'm going to do the same thing over in the front view. I'm going to grab the other direction of the segments and apply connect once again to get a few more segments in that box. And this is how you add segments to a box. We went over this earlier. Now I'm just adjusting the vertices to get a little bit more interesting placement of those segments. And then I'm going to grab the very front vertices and just pull them out on a single axis. And what that's going to give me is more of like the front of a train. I apply lattice to the box, and you can see that they then get that lattice work, or that looks like rebar or something along those lines at the front of the tank. So you don't have to use existing elements. You can use new primitives and just glue them onto the tank. But if you really want to get that tight fit look, you'll have to use existing elements of your tank. And I'm just adjusting it here so that it fits a little bit better. And we'll recolor it to see what it looks like. Just match it to the rest of the tank, and we'll hit render here. And you can see what it looks like. That's what we just created there. It's a neat little trick. It's just kind of an example of using modifiers in different ways to get different results. And you can see I've used lattice a lot in the existing tank that I'm making for the class. I just like the way it adds structure. It kind of, once we put metal onto the tanks, it makes it look like metal plating, basically. So we covered a few more modifiers in this one. We covered bridge, we covered lattice, we covered chamfer, and this is the second in that series of the 10 things that'll help you with modeling, or hints of mine, and I hope it helped you.